rough PowerPoint pretending to be a paper. Hopefully it will get better and more developed later on. All right. Here's what the situation in Romania and the United States look like. Romania and the United States are the two cases that I'm focusing on, and as we can see, here we have some examples of countries that did much better, and it's not a completely random selection of the other cases. Estonia and Finland, for example, had spectacular results on the PISA test, and that's kind of, to me, the starting point. The independent variables would be civic education and scientific education, but I will talk more about that in the future, just a little bit only today. And the argument would be that if civic education and scientific education are not good enough, then you'll have citizens that will be more gullible, they would have distrust in science in general, in vaccines and medicine in particular. You'll have toxic media that is not doing its job, and we'll have politicians with toxic rhetoric and promoting inappropriate policies. And what I will show you would be a few results, kind of illustrating this. Don't worry about the Romanian part. It's just I'm highlighting. Our is the political party that's similar rhetoric with respect to COVID, Donald Trump's, Antenna 3 is a TV station that's very similar to Fox News, and I actually do talk in the paper a bit about how Antenna 3 borrowed not similar type of arguments, some exact same arguments as presented on Fox News. Surprise, surprise, yeah, this is data from a recent Eurobarometer, and as we can see, as the percentage of respondents thinking that new technologies have positive effect on vaccine development, if that goes up, vaccination rates also go up. Right. And this is consequential, yeah. As the percentage vaccinated against COVID goes up, it's also the number of deaths proportionally, so to speak, goes down. Now, obviously, might be some other things going on, like the quality of the healthcare system, but I do imagine that this should be also very important contributor. Okay, and now some data for the US. It's a positive correlation, as we might expect. I'm not exactly sure yet what's going on down here. My hunch, but right now it's just a hunch, might be many places where you have lots of minorities who are very pro-democratic, and yet, at least in the initial phases of vaccinations, they were more reluctant. to get vaccinated. So maybe that's what's going on in that area. All right, and this is kind of a similar analysis for Romania. So these are the major parties in Romania, and the PSD are the Social Democrats, allegedly. Then there are the Liberals, also allegedly. USR are what I would think of genuine liberals, very pro-Europeans, and also the only major Romanian party that were clearly pro-vaxxers. The other two, PSD and PNL, kind of ambivalent, whereas our are clearly anti-vaxxers. Oh, sorry, didn't explain it too well. So these are coefficients, unstandardized coefficients of linear regression. There are like 3,000 cases, Romania localities, and everything is on a 0 to 100 scale. Percentage of the votes, percentage of people vaccinated, and the development is a measure developed by a Romanian scholar. It's kind of similar with the Human Development Index, but adapted to the Romanian. So what this says is that as maybe the presentation is not the most intuitive one, but I wasn't sure how to present it to make it more intuitive. So what this says is actually here is percent vote for USR in parliamentary elections as a predictor of percent of people who got vaccinated in that. So we see that, yeah, there's little effect in here. There's a strong positive effect of vote for USR as a predictor of vaccination rate, whereas for the extreme right anti-vaxxers, it's the opposite. Okay, let me, before concluding, make 3 very brief points. An additional argument backing my claims, kind of 3, would be we have 2 examples from the US how this works. So, interestingly enough, up until very recently, 2015, there was Pew Research survey comparing Republican and Democratic voters. And the opinion about vaccination was exactly the same. As a matter of fact, Republican voters were slightly more, but that was probably within margin of error, but still I thought that was really interesting. So, anti-vax sentiments are something very recent. Media, we have an example of a study showing it was comparing the publics of Tucker Carlson and Sean Hannity. Some of you might know. 2 what I would call kind of zombie journalists. But Tucker Carlson, in the initial months of the pandemic, was like the voice of reason. And there was this study comparing the 2 publics. And those who watched primarily or entirely just Tucker Carlson were way more reasonable, the public itself, compared to the public of Sean Hannity. So, and finally, in terms of learning from one place to the other, there was this interview of Donald Trump by a journalist from Axios, where Donald Trump was claiming that this was summer of 2020, things in the US were going great, because case fatality rate was going down. Case fatality rate is actually a ratio between two variables. So it's a ratio between new deaths by COVID and new infections. So it is possible, and that it was indeed the case, that both variables were going up, where the percentage of infections was going up at a faster rate, the number of deaths. Therefore, the ratio was going down. A few days after, on Antena 3, TV show that I was telling you about, there was a big segment dedicated to, surprise, surprise, claiming that things in Romania were not so bad because case fatality rate in Romania was going down. Might have been an accident, but I don't think so. So, conclusion, surely easier to say than done, but yeah, we would need a better public, better politicians, and better media. Yeah. Anyway, one can always hope. Okay, that was